Hey everyone, welcome back to Reason and Theology, doing a late night stream here with some updated information about the situation between Israel, Iran, the United States. Been covering this topic lately, and there is definitely some pertinent information that has just come out, and I'm having an opportunity to finally go over it with y'all. I've been chomping at the bit to do so. I had a lecture earlier and also was taking care of some other things, so wasn't able to get to the breaking news as quickly as possible, but here we are nonetheless, just a few hours after the news has broken. Trump declares that a ceasefire deal has been agreed to by Iran and Israel. So let's take a look at what's going on, what they're saying. Let's first look at Donald Trump and what he has announced on Truth Social here. He says, "Congratulations to everyone. It's been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire. Um, in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in progress final missions." I don't know what that's going to entail, but I wonder if it's going to cause some problems with the ceasefire. Okay. He says officially Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire. Um, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. So he's calling it the 12-day, or yeah, here he calls it the 12-day war. So Iran starts the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire. At the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-war day. So I don't know. The way I read that is at the 12th hour, um, Iran has to stop, and then at the 24th hour, Israel has to stop. That Why do they get an extra 12 hours? I don't know what will go on in those 12 hours. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading the way that's written. Um, be that as it may, during each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Iran and Israel, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. Okay, here he says, quite the admission, is it not? This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East. You don't say. And yet you still chose to back Israel in this war of aggression? You don't say. Quite the admission on part of Trump, acknowledging this could have been disastrous. Wow. Okay, makes you really wonder, then why did you go through with the attacks, putting everyone at this risk, instead of continuing to work on negotiations and looking for a peaceful route to deter Iran from achieving nuclear capabilities? Be that as it may, he's saying this is the end. It's over. Ceasefire. Again, it's a little odd the way it reads. Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12th day of war. I don't know why it's written like that. Maybe it's going over my head, but that seems a little odd. I don't know why they're not stopping at the same time, and what will happen in between now and then, and what will happen in between the 12th and 24th hour that might sabotage this deal. I don't know. But putting all of that to the side, I guess my thing is this. I don't know. I'm skeptical. Is this really the end? Hey, if it is, wonderful. Wonderful. I am so happy if peace has really just been achieved and there really will be a ceasefire and they really will just come back to the talking table, right? And have dialogues and discussion and work through the situations with dialogue. If that is true, I am so happy. You know what? Could have been worse. I'm not approving of anything that's happened so far, but you know what? If it ends here, Good. I'm glad the fight is over. Let's get back to a peaceful way to achieve what needs to be achieved. If that actually will true, if this really holds water, if this ceasefire really will hold. For some reason, y'all, I don't know. I don't feel that it's going to be this simple. I feel like somebody's going to say, the other broke the ceasefire and we're back at war. Or maybe they'll agree to a ceasefire and one of the groups will, a little bit later, trigger something that inflames the situation and sparks a war again. I don't know. Maybe this is, some of the sides here biting for time. I don't know. Saying, yeah, sure, we'll agree to a ceasefire, knowing later on we're just getting prepared for something else later down the road. I don't know. If this really is genuine, I'm so happy, but I am personally very skeptical. And as soon as I read this, I thought, number one, I don't think this is going to hold. Number two, I'm really thinking that's quite the admission on part of Trump to recognize that this could have been something that destroyed the entire Middle East, and yet he still went through with what he went through 2 days ago and still backed Israel and their initiation of this war. If he knew that, and if he now admits that, okay, then weren't there other alternatives to get what we needed without putting the whole world at risk? Let's take a look at what others are saying. Let's see what Fox News is saying. Then we'll get maybe the other side of the perspective from the other side of the aisle from CNN. Then we'll hear what J.D. Trump is saying. Not J.D. Trump. J.D. Vance. Might as well be J.D. Trump. Okay. Like George Trump, right? Calling Trump now George W. Trump. Now I'm going to call it J.D. Vance J.D. Trump from now on. Okay, here we go. Somebody says, can't you just give some credit to Trump? As I just said, if it really is a real deal, yeah, sure. But there's a reason why I'm skeptical, and I think it's totally reasonable to be skeptical. And I think you would be crazy not to be skeptical. And it's not about an issue of not giving somebody credit. It's an issue of I don't trust any of the players involved. That's what it is. Okay, let's continue.
Do we have details about how this all came together in the last hour?
Well, Laura, good evening. It really was something. Let me just give you the behind the scenes. Trey Yingst was in the middle of wrapping up his report from Tel Aviv, and the producer got in my ear saying, Trump Truth Social coming in the email right now. And I look down, the vice president's right here on set with me. And as I look down to read it, his staff comes in with an iPhone so he can read the Truth Social as it's coming in. And Trey Yingst wraps up his live report. I thank him. I introduce the vice president and obviously start with what we just heard and saw. And he said he had heard about it, talked about it, hadn't seen the final version, and that's what he was reacting to. Since then, we've learned that Qatar was the intermediary and that Iran officials are now saying they did, in fact, authorize Qatar to negotiate on their behalf, at least according to Reuters and other wire services, and that the Israelis are going to agree to this in a 6-hour time frame. Now, what happens between now and the 6 hours? I expect a lot of kinetic action inside Iran from the Israelis, but that's what it looks like. And then the details that the president laid out about how it follows over the next 24, 48 hours, we don't know what that picture looks like or whether it leads to negotiations.
Well, what was stunning is that just in the last several hours, the supreme leader put out a statement saying, we will not submit. We will never submit. So something was changing in that interim time period, and I guess he was made an offer he couldn't refuse.
That, or this is stalling and delaying for further confrontation. A strategic ceasefire just to recover and then reinitiate later on.
Maybe so. We don't know. The Supreme Leader is supposed to be holed up in a bunker. That the going thing in Iran, we're told, is that everyone doesn't know where he is except the Israelis and the U.S. And they have said that they could take him out at any time.
Let that sink in. If they know where he is, then why don't they know where the hostages in Gaza are? Let that sink in.
Don't know what has transpired that changed the Iranians' bold action, other than to read the tea leaves here. They gave a pre-warning about the missile strike on Qatar and Al Udeid Air Base, saying this is going to happen, get your people out of there. And then the air defenses took down those missiles, including one from Qatar. And you know, I think that the president's very weak response post and let's get to peace started phone calls between all of the parties, according to the vice president. And in between the time he left the White House and the time he arrived on this set, something had transpired to get that Truth Social post.
And the president even thanked Iran for the heads up, as you noted with Vance, which it all seemed like it was missile theater at some point. They gave them a chance to save face, shoot up a couple of, you know, what looked like Roman candles. I mean, they were missiles, yeah. But and no damage was done as far as we understand on the ground. So you wonder why they even went through that exercise. But nevertheless, the president didn't choose to humiliate Iran in this moment, which I think that's classic Trump. He wants to give people a way out.
He did say, let's get to peace, let's get to the table. He called it very weak and thanked them for the heads up. But, you know, it follows a pattern. In 2020, the Iranians did the same thing. They fired on a U.S. military base in Iraq, but they also gave a heads up ahead of time. That was after the Soleimani assassination, the takedown of the main military commander for Iran by the U.S. And so it follows a pattern. We'll see if this also follows a ceasefire, because as you know, the Israelis feel like they have a lot of superiority in the skies and they can take out targets at will. And they're on the cusp of making a big change to their existential threat. So it may be tough for them to agree to it, but I think the president is pushing.
And Brett, although people don't want to be political in this moment, politics always enters the equation. We had an enormous amount of kind of nastiness across the political aisle over the last few days regarding the president's decision. So some Democrats were more, tepid about it, but others were basically very, very negative on what the president was doing. How do you see this moment playing out politically?
I mean, John Fetterman was the only Democrat I saw very vocal in his support of the action. Others were either tepid or saying it was unconstitutional and he had to come to Congress first. I think a lot of those Democrats, if you look back at President Obama's actions in Lebanon, in Syria, they were not anywhere near as vocal about the congressional authorization issue back then. Politically, I think it plays pretty well. He's kept his party largely together. There are some vocal voices, as you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, Tom Massey, but fairly small in number and in voice. And I think it really depends how this ceasefire works out and what comes next.
Brett, thank you very much.
Now, there's also this. Trump is saying, congratulations, world. It's time for peace. Well, look. You bomb somebody and then call for peace. Seems unlikely there will be peace, but evidently there's a ceasefire. But I don't know. I'm skeptical. You bomb somebody and then expect peace. Is it really peace you're getting? Or is it just a temporary ceasefire while people regain, recover, and then re-engage? We'll find out. Here is something that Vance saying, Fox News.
Seconds ago, the president went to Truth Social and typed this. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire. Complete and total ceasefire is what he typed.
Yep.
What does that mean? How did it come about? What's the development here?
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House to come over here. So that's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line. I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it.
Excuse me, didn't they get away with the uranium? And what was destroyed, the uranium, was it there? We literally just saw that. How did this not just maybe set them back for a little bit of time? And isn't North Korea and also Russia saying they're going to give them nukes because of this? I don't know. Barbara in the chat says Iran said it was over on their TV. Well, if Iran said it, has to be true then, right? Could possibly be the case that they just agreed to a ceasefire just to recover and then later on re-engage when people aren't anticipating it, right? Couldn't possibly be the case.
So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
We'll see. We'll see. If it's this simple, great. Happy. But we'll see. Here's CNN weighing in on the question. Let's see. Let's eavesdrop on CNN, see what they're saying.
Now, we're hearing incredibly optimistic views coming out of the White House as far as how long this can hold and what this is going to look like. That obviously still remains to be seen on the implementation side of this, and waiting to see if the firing does stop and if Iran and Israel do both agree to this. Because, you know, speaking of the fluidity of the situation, it was just 24 hours ago that President Trump himself was suggesting a regime change in Iran was a possibility.
Not only Trump, but Netanyahu. He wants a regime change. Now, think about it. Is Netanyahu really going to be satisfied with the ceasefire without a regime change? Of course not. Of course not. So is this just stalling? I don't know.
And obviously right before that, having the United States strike Iran. And so, yes, there have been a lot of phone calls going back and forth. In part, this has to do with Iran's limited response earlier, where they fired on a U.S. base in Qatar, but there were no casualties. We know that they did give a heads up that they were going to be firing on U.S. bases without exactly specifying which ones. But that is the question here, is if the United States felt that it did not need to respond to the Iranian retaliation, did that create the space for this? That is what we've been hearing from administration officials. And so the question is whether or not this still holds for the next few hours.
Caitlin, I just been given word that Iran, according to a diplomat who briefed CNN, Iran has agreed to the ceasefire. So this is significant. I just want to try to learn some more information as soon as we get it about that. But if that is the case, that's incredibly significant, because that is, we were waiting. We had not heard from Iran. We had not heard from Israel. All we were going on so far has been the president's social media post, which was some 2 hours ago. So again, that is the first indication we have that Iran has agreed to.
Okay, so and Mahovu in the chat is saying no need for a regime change. They are weakened and can't recover. You think that will satisfy Netanyahu? You think he'll agree to that? You think he'll share that sentiment with you? You think that's his perspective? I mean, that's what's going to matter, right? Because Netanyahu's opinion is evidently all that really matters at the end of the day for the United States. Seems like Trump's just going to go with whatever Netanyahu says. So it's ultimately going to be based on with what he thinks and whatever he wants. So we'll find out. But again, if this is true, if it is lasting, wonderful, wonderful news. I'm all about peace, discussion, dialogue, avoiding war. But I do have some concerns and fears that this might just be a delay tactic. Or that one of the parties will immediately break it and cite some action of the opposition saying that they were the ones who broke the ceasefire, and so we're now re-engaging. I don't know. We'll find out very soon, I suspect. Anyways, I wanted to bring this to your attention. Had to sneak it in. I'll keep you up to date on what's going on. But if you want to stay in tune, you need to hit the subscribe button. And you, of course, also need to hit the like button. Show some appreciation for the stream. I would greatly like it if you help out with the channel. Michael in the chat says it's Trump calling the shots, not Bibi. Yeah, keep saying that to yourself. Yeah, sure. All right, we'll see you later. God bless.